Annie, hi, hi, hello. So,
Hello.
would you mind if we try some like Spanglish, un poquito como de español, inglés?
Okay, yeah.
¿Sí? ¿Te funciona?
Sí, un poco sí.
Ok, vamos a ver cómo va. Habla en el idioma que quieras. I mean, because this is like Jenny, right? I mean, this is like a Mexican American experience and everything.
Yeah.
So, tiene sentido de que sea una mezcla
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
de lo que. So, the first thing, lo primero que quiero saber es cómo llegó a ti esta película de Jenny. How do you like get involved?
I had to audition like everyone else. I had to do a series of auditions and I got the role.
Yeah, yeah. But how was it? I mean, did you like how do you find out that they were like making a new
My agent came to me, and my manager came to me with the project. And the first time she presented me with the audition, I called her and I was like, "Is it okay if I can pass?" And she's like, "I respect your decision. If that's what you want to do, go for it." So
why?
I
Why
passed.
do you want to pass?
Oh my gosh. La gran señora. What do you mean?
Yeah,
She
that's like
is,
complicated.
that's it's a complicated story. It's not easy. Um it's a big undertaking. A lot of people love and respect her, like Jenny querida, like people ride for her, her
Yeah.
fans call themselves perras. So it was something that I was genuinely afraid of. And then, the casting directors came to me because I'm a good friends with them. I'm friends with Alan Luna and Natalie, and they came to me and they asked me personally why I didn't want to audition. And I kind of ignored the message for a little bit, and I was on vacation. I was like, and then a month later I come back and my manager again is like, "Hey, the producers want to know why you won't read." And then Alan came back again and he was like, "Is there a reason you won't?" I'm like, "Well, have you guys found your Jenny?" He's like, "Not yet. Do you know anyone?" And I was like, "Well, maybe."
Yeah.
So yeah, so I went through, and then it was one of those things. I think I was afraid because I had a feeling that this sort of world and film would be a good match for someone like myself. Jenny's lived an illustrious life, and there's a lot that I identify with in her story. And 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 honestly, I didn't know too much about her before the film was brought to me. I knew she was, a musician and did music regional, and knew she was from, not too far from where I was raised, so I knew all of that, but didn't know about the intricacies. And then I learned and I was like, sheesh,
Mhm.
what a woman.
And also from El Barrio, right? Long Beach, Playa
Long
Larga,
Beach,
de Los Ángeles, I mean,
Playa Larga, baby. Yeah.
I'm actually here in Long Beach right now. Yeah.
You are? You live in Long Beach?
Yeah. I
Nice.
and then I mean, it makes sense that you were kind of scared of it, but then you already have like a lot of experience like acting, right? You were like in Vida, you were like in Gentefied, wow, in like a Flaming Hot from Eva Longoria, but still, y en Flaming Hot you portray like una persona real, pero I mean, this is Jenni Rivera, of course, so
Yeah, this is different. You leave, I think as an artist, you leave yourself up to scrutiny regardless. And I think after I learned a little bit more about Jenny's life, I was like, this is half of the fun. People loved her and people hated her. And she didn't give a shit. She still did what she did, and I think for myself, stepping into this role, it's not that I didn't think that I had the capabilities of doing these things. I mean, if I'm just looking at the story, I think any artist, any actor would dream to have something where they're able to do so many things in one project. Jenny was firm in her stance of being like ni santa ni puta, solo mujer. So I think within that, it's like a lot of time, um women on film and television, we very rarely get to play the full embodiment of who we are. And in this film, Jenny lived such a life that she could not be anything other than the full embodiment of who she is. So for me, it wasn't that I didn't think I could, as far as understanding. It was more the visibility of who she was and the eyes that would bring that would bring on this, and not wanting to disappoint her fans first and foremost, and her family, because yes, this is Jenni Rivera, la gran señora, but she's also Janie, you know what I mean? Like she's a mom,
Yeah.
she's a daughter, she's her that, so all of that was, but once I did it, I was like, I'm capable, and whatever I feel that I'm not equipped for, that's part of the fun of learning the craft.
Yeah. So this movie is just like approved by the family. The family was pretty much involved. Did you? I read that you have to like audition like through Zoom with some of the
Yeah, I had to do
children.
a Zoom family audition.
Yeah, how was that?
That was they are so sweet.
Oh, sorry, who were there? I mean, watching you.
I think on the Zoom it was all of her kids,
Mm,
Cheekies, Jackie, Jenica, and Michael. Like there was all of them.
mm.
And they were so sweet. They were so kind. I think very, very concerned at what story we were telling and how we were telling it, which makes sense. If since you were born, your life has been on public display, I get it. But yes, they did have to. They had a final cast approval on who was playing their mom, as they should.
And you have to sing during that audition, right?
I did.
Because I think that I don't know. There's been like two. I mean, one an official series and one official series, TV series before, but I don't know if those actors have to sing. I mean, you do some singing in this
I
one.
do.
Yeah, that's a huge difference, and that's cool because you've been. I know that you've been singing for a while. I don't
Yeah.
know professionally, but how do you do it usually?
Yeah, no, I've been singing my whole life. I started off like in a lot. I started off doing a lot of musical theater.
Okay,
Um, on my dad's side of the family, they're all musicians.
okay.
So I come from musical background, and my mom, she was my coach, my first singing coach growing up. Because in my head, I thought I was going to be a singer before I was going to be an actress.
Oh yeah, you wanted to do that, yeah.
I really thought that was going to be my calling, and then I just fell in love with the art of acting, because a lot of it was, if you don't love my acting, you don't like the character. If you don't like my songs, those are my diary entries. But you grow more and you live a little bit more life, and you're like, I'm gonna die. Like I want to be fully used up when I die. I don't want to leave this world with any. I'd much rather leave this world with regret for the things that I did than regret for the things that I didn't do. I feel like you never, most of the time, if you're smart enough, you learn from the things you did. So there's not really much regret. There's more like, hell yeah, I did that, and I will never do that again. Or I did that. Let me try it again. I can do better.
Sure, sure. So besides those like musicals that you made like way back, this is your most musical, your most like musical performance yet?
In a project, yes,
Uh-huh.
yes,
And how
definitely.
was it? Because I know there's like some parts that are like completely genie, but some other parts you have to. I mean, there's some scenes where you're like without the music, without the instruments and everything, so I
Yeah,
suppose
just
much
singing a
more.
cappella. Yeah. Did you watch the film?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. I
Yeah.
like.
You liked it?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
So how was that? How was that? Having to learn the songs and like and trying to just like
Yeah, it was, music is something that comes the most I mean, any freedom of expression with art is something that I really love. I love singing in English because that's my first language, but singing in Spanish evokes a different part of my body and my nervous system, and it also is able to open me up to feelings and a version of myself that I haven't been able to experience in English. And that's also why I think this movie offers something a little different, um, than the other series that we have out there, because Jenni also spoke English, and she had that first gen experience with her family, and so I do I loved it. It was difficult in a way that was exciting. Like now, like music regional is something that's so close to my heart. I mean, I've always grown up loving corridos and things like that, boleros. So it wasn't something like the music itself didn't. That wasn't the thing that I was most concerned about.
But you said that you were like very familiar with her music. So you were what kind of music? I mean, what kind of music do you usually?
Me, a lot of soul, neo soul, R&B is kind of So funk is kind of the music that I lean towards singing. But with musical theater, it lends itself to being a big belter and, you know, to have that big voice. And so does boleros and so do corridos and so does all of that music. You got to have a big voice and a big presence. So it's kind of in the same, in a similar essence, if you will.
Mhm. You already answered. I wanted to ask you what makes this series different than the previous, sorry, this new movie different than the previous series, and it does, right? Because even if how was it called? Oh, Unbreakable, because Mariposa Radio was the unauthorized one. Mariposa, no, sorry, yeah, Unbreakable was the. Poof, I'm getting it all wrong. No, Mariposa de Barrio. I don't even know anymore. One of them was not authorized, or one of them was authorized. So one might say, why are they making another one? But as you saying, you sing in this one, and then it's in English. It makes sense. It's kind of bilingual, but it's mostly in English because that's how she spoke with her family and everything, right? So it's just more and more natural. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I have it here. Okay, so Su Nombre era Dolores was the unauthorized one, and Mariposa de Barrio was the authorized one. But this one is more like realistic, even in terms of like that, the
Yeah.
language. How's been for you, like the thing with language, I know it's difficult when you live here all your life, then to speak like fluent Spanish and everything, right?
Yeah, you know, I think my accent is pretty good only because I'm a singer. So cuando yo hable español, mi acento está bien y yo puedo hablar más español después de cómo de grabando esta película, porque
Yeah.
yo quiero hablar más, porque las entrevistas es en español y mucho de mi familia habla español. Este es el primera vez, Thanksgiving, que yo puedo hablar con mi nana. It's not because it's so my Spanish isn't horrible, but it's I'm still learning more language and conjugations to figure it out. But you give me something to read and I hear it, I understand it.
Yeah, sure,
So
sure.
that because I also, like you said, I grew up in East LA, so it's not a language that like is foreign to me in that way. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I'm sixth generation, so that's
No.
also
Mm.
so that for me, I have that experience, you know, sixth
Yeah, that
generation Chicana.
the thing with the generations I mean, it change completely things, right? Because it's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was getting like completely confused, but the I mentioned Unbreakable actually was the autobiography she wrote, and I don't know, how do you prepare for the movie? I mean, besides the script and everything,
I
do you
think,
read
yeah,
anything? Do you watch anything? Or do you want to watch the series because you say I don't want to be influenced by anything that was done before? How was it?
no, I watched a lot of things. And I think the difference between the series is it was very telenovela, which is not, it's not, that's just was the nature of that sort of story, you know, which I think then lends itself to a different sort of storytelling. But I did
Yeah.
watch it, and I also watched I Love Jenny, her
Reality.
reality show, and I read her book and I listened to a lot of her music. And I think more so listening to her music was where I learned most about her. Having I was able to go have lunch with all of her beautiful children, and even seeing them interact was really fun because it gives you an insight onto like who is the person that helped build this network, right? They're so tight knit. They're so protective of each other. There's a fierceness about Jenni that that I didn't grow up with that sort of protection. That sort of I didn't have someone that would fight for me. So that was something that I had to learn to have. And I do find I am that person for my family. So hearing her music, seeing them, and hearing what she was saying in her music told me a lot about her. She was a woman that wasn't afraid to talk about her pain, to talk about her fears. She was so vulnerable.
Mm.
Even in, I mean, to be able to have songs about anger and infidelity and sex and love and pain and joy and being the biggest baddest bitch, you know, like I that gives you a lot of insight into the type of bravado that someone walks around with, the type of unapologetic nature, right? That someone, and it's almost like, and then if you're walking around with that, what also shows me, what are you masking? What's underneath that? There has to be something, right?
Yeah.
No one can be strong all the time. I think, you know, what this film, I think what I was trying to show, and I think what Gigi was trying to get to the
The
root
director, I
of,
think, yeah.
the director, our beautiful director,
He's Sol Guerrero. Yeah.
Gigi Salguero, she's fantastic. And then, even our DP, Diana, we had women, at the forefront of this.
Mm,
Uh, um, I believe what all three of us were trying to convey was like strength is earned through our tears. And that's what that you see a lot of that in this film. There's a lot more of a unmasked Jenni. Like, I think when the cameras were on, she's a peleonera, she's funny, she's feisty, she's a little firecracker. But I think after a while, when you're with your family, you're just like, I know for me, I can be a ham. I'm like this. And there's some times where everybody's calling me, they want to hang out. I'm like, I don't have it. If you want to come and sit on the couch with me and be quiet, that's all I got for you today. And I think this film shows more of that reality of an experience. And yeah, I mean, we don't have, there wasn't cameras documenting these parts of her life, and I think that's why we were trying to show
yeah.
what that was, to kind of give her audience an insight, and to maybe offer her more empathy, and to lift up her name a little more, and to show people who've gone through a lot of similar things that she's experienced, that it's okay. It's okay to break down. And it's also okay to stand up and fight for it, you know?
Yeah. Because she refused to be a victim, even with everything that was happening around her. She was trying to be strong and everything. But there's something also interesting in here. It's part of her story, right? It's just that relationship she had with like men of all kinds, right? And then even the father, the character of the father is very, very. I mean, the relationship with the father is this
And
movie is
and
very well developed, and it's interesting because he's not always. I mean, even if this is a family-approved movie, he's just not everybody is just like an angel in the movies. You can see. I mean, there
Jenni's not, nobody is. But
yeah,
that's the message that she's been sending this whole time. There's plenty of quotes of her saying, you know, thank you for accepting me as I am, flaws and all. Like, she wasn't trying to be perfect. Media tries to make us be perfect. They try and make the perfect story. Critics
mm,
try and break it down to this is good or this is bad. How do you critique something that's always changing? A person, like, how do you assign a value to something that's so subjective? Even a film like this, how are we gonna, like, so many hands go into making something like this, and yet here I am as the face of it, right? So many hands go into helping Jenni become Jenni, and yet she's the only one facing all of the scrutiny. So yeah, of course she was like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to make myself a victim. If I'm going to get charged for the crime, if I'm going to get the time, I'm going to do some crime then. Y'all are going to talk shit anyway.
yeah,
And I think that's so, and to your point of, I think now that I've watched it back and I have space to be far from it, there's someone that said to me, like, ugh, why is it that when Cinco comes along, like when she's meeting meets a good guy, now all of a sudden she has the confidence to go after her dreams? I'm like, because that's reality. I myself, I think who has an easy upbringing? No one, right? But I also know for me, with not having my dad in my life, I've made some interesting decisions with the type of men that I chose to date for a period of time, until me and my dad did reconnect. And I was like, oh, me and my mom had tumultuous energy. So I would choose women in my life that weren't really supportive, that mirrored energies. Not that they didn't love me, but we're searching for validation for
yeah,
someone that reminds us of the person that hurt us. And hopefully, if the person that reminds us of the person that hurt us doesn't hurt us, that means we were good. That means it wasn't our fault to begin with. And I think that's the insidious nature of the human experience. And Jenni was a human. Like, we can point fingers all we want. I'm sure you've experienced something similar. We all have, and that's that's the type of art that I'm leaning towards creating. Honest, authentic, flawed, beautiful creatures on our screen that hopefully help us feel a little less shame of being who we are.
So, what's the name of the actor who portrayed the Jenny's father?
His name is Manuel Uriza. He is
How in, I mean, because of you say it was probably a very intense like relations, and then developing the characters and the interactions and everything.
with I was really fortunate in during the casting process. They the whole team, as well as Gigi and mucho más, let me be a part of a lot of, I'm an executive producer on the project as well, so I was involved in the casting process, and I made it abundantly clear to the team, like, we all want who's best for the role collectively, right? Who's all going to agree that can do this, and also whoever's surrounding Jenni I would love to, like, we need to make them strong and smart. And Manuel Uriza, when I read the script, he was my first choice. And I remember giving the suggestion to Gigi. I was like, I think you really need to read this guy,
Yeah,
because I worked with him on Gentefied, and there was he didn't have a really huge role, but I just remember being on set with him and listening to his sensibilities and choices, that I was like, this guy's brilliant. And then I saw him in another show and I was like, damn, this guy's brilliant. And then I looked, you try and do picture perfect. And I look at Papa Pedro and I was like, no, I feel like, because I trust Manuel as a friend, I knew that we could go there, that we could go to these places that were dark and dirty and ugly, and still you have to have safety,
yeah.
in creating something like that that's so personal and painful.
Mm. What do you
He's
think what do you think the movie says in terms of like how, I don't know, I don't want to be like generalizar, but just like the behavior of like Latino men, like in general, right? That like here in Latin American countries, because there's a lot of machismo still. I mean, the movie, she went through all of that. Like, I mean, she went through abuse and like all kinds of abuse and things, and then it's not easy. Right? It wasn't easy, and then
Yeah.
probably all this like when you talk about her life, you need to think about that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's so much the film is trying to point to a perspective on Latino men or even like Latina women. I just think culturally we do have a lot of work to do. And it makes sense. I mean, we Latinos in general and all of Latin America, it's a lot of colonized countries. And within colonization, instinctually our bodies go to, and within the dynamic of the masculine and the feminine, right? Like, masculine innately is supposed to protect because there's a stronger force there. And when the construct of the foundation of that is broken within the confines of colonization, it's really hard to find that footing, because then we're like, how do we trust, who do we trust? And predominantly in Latino culture, men are not allowed to have their full scope of feelings. And consequently, on the other hand, women have, quote unquote, too many feelings, right? So where is the balance? There's, you in most times, and Jenni had all the feelings for everyone. Like, she didn't shy away from anything. I don't think this is a dig on anyone. I think this is more of like, because then you even see at the end of the film, with Jenni and Papa Pedro, you see the through line of all the abuse because of the genesis, right, of her family and that unit of the machista unit. And then you slowly but surely see some of it start to unravel. Trino gets prosecuted and taken to jail. Cinco, on his deathbed, apologizes for what he put her through. Papa Pedro shows up and admits to being hard-headed in who he was, because also that was all he knew.
Mhm.
And Jenni, even though, right, she has this fire and this fight, there still was a grace about her. that I think gets lost in the fold. She was provoked a lot because that's what media loves to do, especially with someone who makes music like she does. I mean, we've seen it. Chapel Ronan, she gets upset at a photographer for telling her to shut up, and now she's the bad person. What?
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's a slippery slope when we start playing telephone. So I don't think it's that we're sending a message about I think about Latino men. I just think this is like a nice space for us to come together culturally and be like, this does exist. And damn, we see the layers of it, even if it's just through Jenni's lens. Like, why do Latina women get pregnant, have three baby daddies? We want to make it this woman's fault. But you look at someone's life and the way that they lived, and you might make the exact same choices that this person did. It's easy to point the finger, not so easy when we're living in glass houses.
Sure, sure, sure. In those terms, how important do you think it was? I mean, of course, you're a great actress, but how important was to have like a girl from the barrio, like portraying a girl from the barrio?
Man, I think for the whole project in a whole, that was that they were really trying to make it as authentic as possible, and they knew, man, I'm just great. I'm really grateful. I am hella grateful that I was afforded this opportunity, and really grateful. Sorry, really grateful to Jenni and her life. This is one of the hardest projects I've ever done, because I really care and respect her and her family, and the importance of what she means to so many people, that I'm grateful that I did it, and it's out there now for the world to experience, and that's all we got.
So, what would you like the world to take from it? What would you like people to get from the movie?
It's not about what people say about you, it's about how you respond to it. Everybody's going to have an opinion. Everybody's going to have an opinion. But if you go into hiding because you don't like the opinion of the world, that means that you only assign your value comes from the world. Jenni's value did not come from the world. She tried her hardest to make it not come from the world. And I feel that on my own, because I know this movie is going to have a lot of eyes, and there's going to be a lot of opinions, not only about my role, but even the film as a whole, right? The storyline, it's not an easy subject matter. There's
Yeah,
a lot of things in there that sometimes can feel contradicting, but such is life. I know there's a lot in this film that feels like Jenni's not taking the lead of her own life, but that's sometimes how we feel. Even myself, I'm here with you, and how many people did you have to connect with so that we could get on this Zoom call together? And I'm not at the caliber of Jenni. I can resonate with that though, that feeling of like, damn, I'm going to be the only one scrutinized, but I'm not the only one that put my hands on this thing.
sure.
I'm going to continue to do what I do. So I pray that people take from this, that keep doing what feels good to you, and hopefully there is no lesson lost, no dollar wasted, no love, no love lost, because you learned.
Sure, absolutely. Annie, thank you very much. Great words, actually.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Te lo agradezco. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the movie's good, and you're great in the movie too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergio. I appreciate you.
Que tengas un muy buen, feliz
Uh,
resto del día.
I know. I have screenings and stuff to go to. I'm ready.
All right, all right. Thank you.